cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife, leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. Just let me go, it's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Just let me go, it's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. Black and white.
everyone, welcome to Simracersworld TV for the SRW Dynamixx NASCAR Winter Series. We're at round 4, over the midway point of the season now, 3 rounds remaining, and we are at a well-known place for many oval racer here on iRacing. It's the Charlotte Motor Speedway. We're expecting some hefty times indeed for the field here, Jack, because it's despite what you see, it looks relatively benign and simple, a D-shaped oval, but anyone who's ever raced here knows it's anything but. We're going to see fast speeds, and hopefully we'll get the race through nice and cleanly indeed. And speaking of nice and clean, Jacko, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm not bad. Nice and clean is a good way to be described, I reckon, in an introduction to a race, Hasse. But yeah, I'm all good. I'm looking forward to a fantastic race here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's, as you said, it's one of the most famous tracks on iRacing. It's one of the free ones that you get right at the beginning if you sign up to iRacing, which is always brilliant. iRacing is sometimes been a bit slated with the fact that you have to buy all the tracks along with the subscription and the cars and everything. But if you want to jump on iRacing, you've never done it before, well, this is a track you can jump on immediately. And it is a good track as well, because you have the infield, you have the oval. It's an very interesting and hard oval as well. So, yeah, it's brilliant to be here. And top of the pile in practice, yet again, no surprises here, Hasse, Sergio Hernandez. Yeah,
it's something we've seen before, and we'll probably see him up there again. I'd be very surprised if not. And speaking of Sergio Hernandez, that leads me as a brilliant segue onto something that I've not gotten done until now for this championship, which is a bit of a shame, but we've got it now. The championship standings, ladies and gents, and everyone else.
Beautiful there.
Sergio Hernandez, of course, our leader with 113 points. Kenzie Newhoff and Van Eekhoven, which is not his name. I'm sorry, it's Frederick Van Eekhoven, of course, a bit of a SDK playing up there, but nonetheless, 106 and 101 points to their names. Then Bart DeVos, Jen Tusting, Greg Franks, and 78. Anton Dupin, Matthew Sufi there with 76 points in 8th, then Kim Behate, 73, and the Robert Lundgren, if you will. Robert Lundgren for Boosted Motorsports in 10th place, that was. At 72 points, and for the rest of the field, it is indeed rather close, as you will often find, and especially in a short series like this, really shouldn't be surprised to see such situations playing out. Anyways, we are just a minute or so away from the qualifying session. Of course, a big shout out goes to our sponsor, Dynamixx Racing Simulators. Go and check out their website and the things you can indulge in simulator-wise. But do so at a good point, not at a bad point. And just before qualifying, Jack, I think it's not the best point indeed.
No, it's probably not. I mean, we always try and nicely segue people to during caution periods, don't we? And sometimes there's a few caution periods in a row, so it's always a great opportunity to go and see it maybe then. But yeah, it's, last week, I mean, we were looking at the championship. Last week, obviously, it was very representative of the top championship order, is what we pretty much saw in the finishing stages around the last week's round 3, basically. And Kenzie Newhoff, he actually won the overall thing. And if you remember, Frederick Van Eekhoven, the team down undercars were 1 and 2. And they pulled an absolutely brilliant move out of the bag after a caution period to make sure that they were the first 2 cars in the lead as well. Matthew Sufi actually managed to just pip Sergio Hernandez, who'd been dominant in this series for almost this entirety. So just before we go into qualifying, there are people who are not only strong championship contenders, they're also coming in here on good form as well, which I suppose is a given considering they're championship contenders and it's a short championship.
Yeah, indeed, it makes it all the more important to pick up every single point you can over the course of the season, and that's rather easier said than done with so many variables. I feel like it's a conclusion that we can draw from this point already in the season here, a bit more than halfway through, that it's been very, very hard to predict, and there's been so many variables to throw in to the mix. The drivers have to stay very awake to all these things, and I, for one, have to say, oval racing turns out to be a lot less simple than it might appear, and we've had some really good stuff so far, and we're expecting more of the same. I actually did a few test laps here, and I didn't do them with the qualifying setup though, and I think that Gregory Franks is finding that the cold tires are very, very hard to handle. It's a slippery setup. It likes to go, but it wants to go fast as well, as we've had drivers noting in our Discord chat that loose is fast, especially when it comes to qualifying setups. And Jack, by the way, no surprise to see just who's on top here.
Yeah, absolutely not. Sergio Hernandez absolutely smashing it for now, but obviously we will see those times slightly change. There we go. Bart de Vos heads the time now, and we say it every week. So if you do watch every week, then you might want to tune out for the next 30 seconds. But keep in mind that everybody. This is going to be a very, very tightly packed grid in terms of qualifying. I think in the Daytona 500 it was separated by hundredths of a second, if not thousands of a second. If you didn't catch it on Simracersworld, then by all means go and have a look at it after, obviously, tonight, if you catch the bug for it. But it's a very close, compact field. Qualifying is literally inches, and it's half mile an hour. It's not even like carrying 1 or 2 extra mile an hour through a corner. You're talking about half a mile an hour will make the difference between, say, 5th and 3rd. And so that's the sort of the aspects that these drivers are having to deal with and having to drag out the car is their hundredths, their thousandths of a second that they're going to be dealing with over the next 7 minutes.
Indeed. I also think that to a large extent, it doesn't really carry the same weight with it. Qualifying, as you'd see in a road race, certainly taking a light to flag victory in a race like this, it's going to be a very, very complicated matter. Indeed, just because of the effects of slipstreaming and the draft that it creates here, and it's Paul Gosling in the 88 car getting very loose and has a bit of a touch to the outside wall, and you can see a bit of a dent there as well as a consequence of that little bit of a rub, and that's gonna take a bit of speed out of his car. It might just be unaffected. I'm not quite sure. We're gonna see if he's gonna maybe cancel this run and go for another one. Brian Harris with what I think is a personal best. He's 15th for Volante Racing, and I'm getting this vibe and this feeling is just as we go to Brian Harris, he loses it in qualifying, in the slippery qualifying session indeed, or the setup, I'm sorry. But I'm getting this feeling of Brian Harris that it seems to have quite a lot of potential. We've seen him journey his way through the field on multiple occasions, only to be struck by bad luck at the sharp end of things, and hoping for better times indeed for Brian here.
Yeah, I just want to give this opportunity as we're sort of looking at Brian not having the best of times, to give a big shout out to everybody who's watching on the streams as well. And by all means, give it a comment, give it a like, and we'll always try and sort of interact with you guys. As I said before, there's plenty of caution periods and opportunities for us to interact with you guys, and Hasse gets bored with talking to me, so by all means we can talk to you guys.
Yeah, indeed, do get at us also if you have any questions or any things we should take into consideration. We also know that a lot of you out there sits on a substantial, shall we say, knowledge base, and feel free to bid in with any type of Peter Mackay-esque small bits of information, or a bit of a short story here and there. We appreciate those things. And by the way, welcome to Robert and to Thomas Metz as well. Nice to have you along. Jacko, I see you're in chat as well. Ooh. And Pablo
no, you know me, Hasse. I always like to try and interact while you're having a chat.
And our league man is here as well, Bram van Hoefden. Nice to have you on as well. And we did get that, the 48 not on track tonight. No Robert Lundgren, and that's a big shame indeed. Frederick van Eekhoven there goes in with a fast sector, but not a fast lap per se. We know his pace can be a little hotter than what he's put in on this lap here, but it also seems that he's still warming up his car, and more might be to come from Frederick, who's faster in the first sector this time around.
Yeah, you can see the difference. I mean, you were talking about it before we went on air, Hasse, and that is a quick time to put him 4th place, so it is an improvement yet again. But you were talking about it on air before, and obviously these cars look very loose. You can get spit out at the end of these sort of these turns, can't you? I mean, they are heavily banked, and Van Ekhoven actually is going to stick a purple sector in. So let's keep with him throughout the rest of this lap. We know he already purpled sector 2, so we know he's quick around sector 2. He's purple sector 1 in this lap. Let's see what he can pull out of the bag as he crosses against the line. It's slower than what he did before, but it is still quick enough to put him into second place. 1/100th of a second behind Pablo Cortel, currently holding the top spot.
Not even 100th, it's 7,000ths of a second, so just under 100th of a second. These are the margins that we're often looking at here in NASCAR, evening to Ryan Walker as well. And Thomas, I think with all the cautions, maybe even we'll find a moment or two to discuss our two-wheeled passion, our pedaling passion, if you will. Here's Kenzie Newhoff in the 62 machine, currently 8th on the grid, Jack.
Yeah, he's not quite showing as strong a pace as they did last time. Obviously, the team down undercar, but we have got a fair few laps to go, and they're actually sticking a quick lap time in now as they come across the line. Kenzie Newhoff goes into 7th place, so not as quick as they'd like. But like you said, Hasse, at the end of the day, the likelihood of seeing a lights the flag victory with no drama like you see in certain Formula 1 series and everything like that is so unlikely in this sort of NASCAR event, oval racing, that it could be starting 7th place and you could be in the top 3 battle within the first 3 laps. So it's really one of those things that you just sort of have to take with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, indeed it is, and it's a bit of encouragement as well for the drivers that are in the top 10, but maybe not atop it. It's not that far to make it up there to the top, and it's basically here we go, Thomas, with the with the cycling analogies, but it is kind of like a cycling road race where the safest place to be, the best place to be, is not maybe at the front, but somewhere close in behind, within the top 10, I'd say, in a race like this, because it just seems to decrease the chance of having any kind of incidents. Adam Wright is in a car, I was about to say, because it was very white. It's, of course, the 3rd team down under drivers. Left it a bit late, I think, here for qualifying in the 27 machine. But looking to make his mark on proceedings. And if we cast our minds back to the first round of racing, and that's 1 month ago by now. Time flies indeed. We've had so much fun with this series. Brings a bit of joy to the Monday night. But a month ago, they were so close to the top 3 indeed. Just etching out the podium with places 4, 5, and 6. So yet again tonight they'll be hoping for more. I'm right 26th, but he'll be improving on his pace as the car heats up.
Yeah, like you said though, Hasse doesn't exactly have long 40 seconds left in the session. That is enough time though to get this lap in and one more, because they are lapping in around about the 28th. So, and I'm not saying 1 minute 28, which is normally what we sort of talk about. I'm literally talking about 28 seconds is the lap time that's currently on pole position, 28.5. So it is an extremely quick lap round here. And yeah, we normally sort of, a little bit loose on the rear end there. That was a big moment for Adam Wright, but he seems to have collected it all together. We always try and compact this down to a 90-minute race. So 90 minutes is the furthest these guys can run for. Tonight, obviously, they do laps instead. So it's we'll see how many laps it is, or an hour and a half. We'll see which one they get to first, basically. Yeah,
indeed. That's it's been a close race, actually, between the two on previous occasions. So no real surprises there. And I wouldn't be surprised to see the same kind of thing play out here.
Tell you what, Pablo Cortel, who was on pole position, you can see on the timing time on your left, we'll bring you the full grid in a second, but we haven't seen him that high up in the order before. It's a really good, strong qualifying from him to get ahead of Frederick Van Ekhoven, but also Sergio Hernandez down in 4th. So the pole sitter, Pablo Cortel, doing a really good job, showing that he's maybe practiced a little bit more for this round, and he's going to really throw his hat into the ring.
Yeah, indeed, and he's going to have to, because there's a lot at stake here. As we mentioned earlier, the points don't come easy, so you got to pick him up while you can. Indeed, it didn't take long, Thomas, as we're about to kick off the racing here. Just a minute till we get the pace lap rolling, and something you'll see here at Charlotte, something I find very charming, this very old school, actually, goes way back to the roots of motor racing at Le Mans and such. This way of having the parked cart, the parks cart, the cars parked, if I could just speak as an English, on the grid indeed.
Yeah, it's a bit of a nice throwback, isn't it, to be honest? It wasn't something I was aware we were doing, but it's really nice to be parked in front of the empty stadiums, which is a bit of a shame, but, here at Simracersworld, we love to give you a bit of immersion. It's exactly how it would be in real life. And it is how we have it on the stream today. But as the red lights are about to go, you can see the pace car somehow turning to the left. And everybody's starting to sort of funnel out and start the order.
Very much so. And that means that in not too long, we're going to go green. It's going to be boogity, 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 boogity indeed. And just before that, it's time to have our quick prayer tonight. But Lord above, have mercy on these drivers that have to do an hour and a half or 160 laps here at Charlotte. And thank you for these wonderful virtual machines. Thank you for the service that we're using. Thank you for the programmers that do a brilliant job. And thank you for the NASCAR 2003 series game, which many would know forms the basis of iRacing. Have mercy on our PCs. May the CPUs and graphics cards endure. And may we all have a clean and safe race. Amen. And with that said, we're just about to go green. And did we see something crazy happening at the far end of qualifying here? Because Pablo Cortel put it on pole. And that's not something I picked up there at the closing stages, but that just shows my attention span as we are very, very close to go green at Charlotte. And I think just about there they are. And it's all down to boogity, boogity, boogity time as me and Jack Oliphant will be your guides on this 1.5 hour adventure of oval racing.
Yeah, by the looks of it, we've just about... Oh, wait, I'll hold my breath and say it. Just wait a couple of seconds. Yep, I think we're just about through the first quarter, which means we've actually lasted longer before caution period than we did last week. So we're already on a good track, people, here. It's going to be a good night of racing. Cortel leads the way. Hernandez is on 4th position, up to 2nd already. Van Ekhoven, who is searching for that maiden win in the NASCAR SRW Series. He's had a couple of podiums here, there, and everywhere. He's hunting for that race win. He's in 3rd place at the moment. He's in a good spot to try and poach a podium, but obviously there is an awful long way to go here tonight. Bart DeVos as well. He's had been collecting in a couple of not his fault incidents, let's put it that way, in a couple of rounds ago. He showed good pace last week, and he's going to try and carry that momentum. And you can see already the top 6 breaking away from the field.
Very much so, and I was just about to say what Thomas tells us as well in chat. Don't jinx it, but it seems like we haven't. As the cars come flying by in turn 1, that's an impressive sight indeed. Pablo Cortel still ahead of his countrymen. It's Hernandez, then Van Ekhoven of us. Then it's Tim Perry losing a position to Kenzie Newhoff. There he's on the outside. Tim Perry low on the 62 car, does very well against the boosted motorsports machine, who came in late to the series but has shown a very fine show of pace so far. Here is Matthew Sufi in 7th place as they're all coming down through turn 1 again. And on his tail is Greg Franks, who was very quick here in practice. Expect him to do good things. And the first bit of a gap we're seeing here is down to Ryan Walker and the rest of the gang. It's Stuart Wasserwide, and I think that's Stephen DeWolf, Anton Dupin, and Paul Gosling all in the mix here as well. So a very clean start to the race here. That's brilliant to see, Jack.
It is indeed, yeah, and well, like I said, like you told me, Hasse, don't jinx it, come on. But 5 laps of racing is an awful lot longer than we got last week, so it is brilliant to have, as you said. And just a note on the Charlotte Speedway, it's such a short lap, the laps disappear like that. We're already on lap 5, and this is absolutely disappearing, but it's brilliant to see these drivers really enjoying it, and actually the standard is improving each and every round that we come to this. Obviously, everybody pretty much is brand new to over racing in this series. It is a rookie championship series, and everybody is learning bit by bit. Even me and Hasse are learning bit by bit about over racing. We're falling more and more in love with it every time. But by the looks of these drivers are not only going away and improving on their skills on their own in practice, they're probably working as teams and getting into the servers to make sure that they're trying to get the top of their game. And by the looks of it, Cortel is taking that into this race.
Indeed, he is. And it's Hernandez trying just to sit in there, trying maybe just to conserve his tires for now. They seem to be very orderly running so far, and that's, of course, going to make it easier, especially for the top runners. We had a look with the lower ends of the field before. There was a little bit more squirrelish side-by-side running, but they're, of course, going to settle what needs to be settled here early on. That's Thijs van den Berge and Adam Wright, who finds himself relatively far away down compared to what pace we've seen earlier on. But it might be that when you're joining in late, you don't get the same kind of warm-up period as the rest of the field. And listen to the roar of those engines. Checo, that's absolutely brilliant. So much power on display here, virtual power. We could call it processing power. That would be a very bad pun indeed.
Wait, absolutely brilliant, that one. I'm going to use that one, Hasse.
Frederik van Eekhoven in front of his teammates. Got Bart de Vos looking up the inside in the 6 machine, almost giving him a bit of a nudge. And you know, as they say over there, rubbing is racing, so expect some of that as well. We've seen plenty of it so far this season, and it's been very, very good here already. 9 laps of absolutely green flying racing here. It's been 4 minutes, and everyone seeming to take a relatively cautious approach this time around, as I think Hendrik de Graaf goes a little bit wide in the final corner, and now they're going to come across the line, and he's got Steve Claes in the M&M's machine. Makes me want to go hungry for chocolate here as he sets it up the inside. And actually, the thing about Charlotte here is you can very much hang out there on the outside, and if you're given the space, as you can see here, this Flemish Sim Sports machine actually carried more speed around the outside and kept the position and opening up the door for his teammate to go on through, and that's of course Kim Behate. Meanwhile, at the head of affairs, it's all still very, very close.
Yeah, Pablo Cortel still leading the way. Sergio Hernandez in second place now. Frederik van Eekhoven has dropped down to third, but as I said at the beginning of this race, when he was in third before, that's not a bad position to be at all. Bart de Vos dropped down 2 places from third to fifth. Kenzie Newhoff up to fourth position. So Kenzie showing that qualifying pace isn't everything. And just have a look and see how the attitude of the Toyota Camry up ahead is sort of shaking its boots and making sure that it's getting a little bit sideways as Bart tries to look up the outside. All these cars, it's worth noting, are identical underneath. Doesn't matter if it's a Ford, Chevy or a Toyota. They're all pretty much identical. It's just what kind of shape body kit you like to have on your car. And they're all using the same setup as well. So there's really not a lot that these drivers can do with the setup. SRW supplied the setup, and that is what everybody races on to make sure the racing is as close as possible. And obviously, as a rookie championship, no one's left out with a god-tiered setup against a basic get-out-of-the-box kind of setup, which never really works for iRacing.
No, it's true that's always been a bit tricky there. As you can see, it's tricky as well for Stuart Musselwhite trying to hustle his way back in to the running row there on the inside line as they were just massing by to his left, and he couldn't really do much about it. Another Flemish Sim Sports car trying to make his way up. That's Kim Behate, I think in 15th place at the moment. The running order is changed a bit because Sergio Hernandez has gotten well clear, and I'm just gonna see if we can just throw back for a moment and see just what happened here. Papa Cortel has had a bit of an oversight. Oh, look at this moment here as they went almost 3 wide. And oh, what a close shave indeed, and just about making it work, those 3. But Newhoff seems to have backed off a bit and is now under pressure from Frederik van Eekhoven. Bart de Vos very much there as well, and lurking in the background in the 83 car is Tim Perry.
Yeah, I think those 2 drivers definitely going to need to clean their sim rigs because it's going to be getting messy if they keep going that close. Very scary moments indeed for them, but they seem to have got out unscathed, especially Sergio Hernandez will be looking at his mirrors and enjoying the gap, basically the country mile that's in between him and Pablo Cortel now. But obviously, we've seen that kind of gap before just diminish in a snap of the fingers. They're going about 2 seconds 3 seconds maybe slower than they were in qualifying, but that's because obviously now they've got tyre wear to be thinking of, they've got fuel to be thinking of, they've got other cars around them as well. So it all comes down to tactics. Now, normally, I say this, you know, with a pinch of salt, normally we don't get this long a green flag running at the start of these races. We haven't in the previous 3 rounds, but by the looks of it, we've got a good standard of driving here tonight, hopefully. Touch wood, everybody touch some wood around them. And we'll see some tactics coming into play now, and people actually having to pit. And a dog in the background, by the sounds of it.
That's my dog. I knocked on wood and I set off the dog. I should not have done that. I do apologize. We'll get a bit of barkiness there from the background of Stella, the hound. Look at that gap ahead now for Sergio Hernandez, really putting on some pressure. He's piling on it. It's almost a second down to Cortel. And the 2 team down undercars. Oh, a spot to fuss. Had a little bit of an edgy moment there. Someone might have had a slight situation here, I'm afraid, as we're just going to have a look to see if this was it. Kim Behade. No, that's just a inside pass there on Stuart Musselwhite. Nicely executed, and we're still running. So everything and all is good indeed in the land of ovals. Here's Stephen Wolf fighting Ryan Walker in the 555 machine for 10th place. And it's Anton Dupin, who is here, there, and everywhere. Indeed, he's on the outside now with a bit of overspeed. But Ryan Walker seems to be finding his potential tonight as well. He's been one of the very unlucky drivers so far this series. It's very nice to see Ryan with a bit of success here early days this race. Back to the front. Oh, I'm sorry. Go on, Jack.
I was just going to say, it's impressive that these drivers, who we have seen quite a few drivers just continuously like being having bad luck, shall we say, in each of the races, but they keep coming back to try again and improve their time and just make sure they're enjoying their races, which is exactly what we want to see. As I think that's Kenzie Newhoff over on the outside, and Bart DeVos is going to go looking up the inside to take that position, and I think he might just have it as well. He's going to be well, we've seen how the cars can hang around the outside and carry momentum, but Bart DeVos has gotten through into the top 4.
Very much so, and if we just jump up ahead for a little bit, Sergio Hernandez is on a roll. He's 0.2 of a second up on Pablo Cortel on the final lap here. So, or not on the final lap, on the last lap they did. But that is a huge margin, and we can see Frederik van Eekhoven is having no more of it. I think Cortel might have just been a little too hot on his tires here, as we're 20 laps into it. That wear is going to be showing by now, and it's creating a noticeable pace difference between Hernandez and the rest of the front runners. Bart DeVos seems to be carrying himself nicely as well here. Cortel, however, is not over and out, of course, because he's up on the high side. He's defending himself very well from Frederik van Eekhoven, who's not really able to find any kind of way past. And now it's all falling into the hands of Bart DeVos, but that's a lift into the corner from Bart DeVos. That's, of course, going to ease the pressure off of the tires just ever so slightly, and that's going to ensure for him that they can run that little bit longer. Here goes Van Eekhoven though on the inside of Cortel for second place. Oh, as we get a bit of a blink there, and I hope that oh yeah, he's back in the standings, so that's good. It's always a bit scary. You're afraid it's going to be a disconnection in those sorts of situations. We still got a very close battle here for second place. Greg Franks is on the tail of Matthew Soufi, so that's the SRW esports cars here, running close together, and behind there is a close punch indeed here, Jack. Look at that stuff. The Flemish SimSports machine's really going at it.
Yeah, like an arrow. Just look at them trying to carve through the traffic as one of them's going at the inside now. I think that's Hendrik de Grave on Adam Wright, who has had a good start to this race, considering he started a long way back. But by the looks at the Flemish SimSport cars, we saw how dominant they were in the Daytona 500 when we first launched that event to sort of give a taste of the NASCAR Series on SRW, and a lot of people enjoyed it, including the Flemish SimSport cars. And you can just see hunting in packs now as one car's just been blocked off a little bit. Bart DeVos, though, in third place, more like Bart de Nos, because he's absolutely carving his way through the field, and it seems he's got extra horsepower compared to the people around him.
He gets a very good run there into turn one, and there's just nothing to be done for the 33 machine. Just had almost just thinking, was that a slightest of nudges? Oh, look at this! They're side by side. This is Ryan Walker on the outside, and it's Kim Behate. I think, yeah, it is Kim Behate in the 86 machine on the inside, and he's gonna take the position, I think, because it's not settled. It's not over yet at all, but this one is. It seems to me is Bram van Uyften is there in the bright yellow, almost neon-esque machine there in behind. He's in 16th place at the moment. He's climbed for a bit, and he's well in there with the 88 Quantum machine of Paul Gosling.
Having a look, Adam Wright, I mentioned it before that he's done a good job getting this far up the order. He's gained 11 places as he's just overtaken Ryan Walker, so absolutely brilliant effort by him. He will probably be carving through his tyres, chewing through his tyres, but we're on board with Bram van Uyften here. He's made up 2 places, and I'm sure in this mid-pack, these guys will be absolutely loving their racing. We're enjoying watching it. Everybody at home, I'm sure, is enjoying watching it, but these guys will certainly be enjoying actually racing in it. It seems really close action. Speaking of close action, here's Gregory Vrantz in the back of this 3-way battle between Tim Perry and Matthew Sufi, who obviously was a podium position at the last round, and Tim Perry just gets past Matthew Sufi. So here's Adam right now on board.
And even, oh, we've got the yellow flag out just as we go on board here. There is indeed a caution. I'm afraid it's been centered around Paul Gosling. He's not the only one, but he has been involved, that's for sure. And we're just going to see if we can... Oh, that's a one. Oh, the teammates collide as well. And that's the 65 involved. Leonard's involved as well, the boss. And even Bauman's, I'm afraid. So that's a relatively big incident in the end. And after 14 minutes, 30 laps of clean running so far, we've gotten our first caution period. And I'm quite sure that as soon as we see the pit lane open up, we'll see every single car in the field dug in for either just tires and fuel or for much needed repairs as well.
Yeah, well, I think we saw that Pablo Cortel, obviously, he qualified on pole position and he was really chewing through his tyres and the initial stages to try and get a gap as high as possible. Here goes Sergio Hernandez, followed by everybody else, apart from 1 or 2 drivers who obviously have a little bit of damage. I'm not sure why. Oh, very close. Who's that? Steve Clays, who's just decided to, you know what, I'm going to stay on the outside here and let you all pit. Not really sure what the plan is for him there, but... yeah, everybody now piling pretty much into the pits, and that's exactly what we were expecting. I was just finished my thoughts. Pablo Cortel obviously really punished his tyres at the beginning of this race, and that meant that as soon as his tyres started to go off a little bit, Sergio Hernandez, who maybe a bit more experienced, or maybe just knew exactly, maybe he's done more running in practice, knew exactly how quickly his tyres would then go off, and he just pushed after that and got past, and that's why he extended that gap. Obviously, it's all been diminished now because everybody's jumped into the pits and behind the pace car.
Yeah, indeed. And I'm just going to see if we can find a better shot. Well, that's certainly not going to be it. Oh, so that's Ryan Walker involved somehow. Up the high side, they make contact as well. There's more contact. So it seems to be a bit of a domino effect of cars running into one another. And as we are back running here is Hernandez, and Steve Clays, I think, has chosen for some reason not to go in this time around. And the number 3 M&M's car seems to be on a sole strategy, so to say. There's no one else following that kind of running, and just to prove me wrong, Steve jumps into the pits here at the final chance. I think it would be wouldn't be surprised to see the lights come off on the safety car, or the pace car as it is. And yet again, I'm wrong again, because lights are actually still on. So unless they decide to flip them off in the middle of the lap, which I don't think so, we'll have 2 more laps of pace car running. And from there on, we'll go back to green flag racing.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if we do have... normally, I think in the last 2 rounds we've seen, it's the sort of normal caution period behind the pace car is 3 laps, but it's such a short lap here at Charlotte. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up with 4 laps of pace car. Not entirely sure why, because obviously it's not like we have to recover any cars, but that's just how iRacing works. And yeah, that's Steve Clay's play by staying out when everybody else was pitting. Not really sure what the theory there was, because his tyres must have just been as shot as everybody else's. But he's, I think, come back out into 24th. I think he was the driver on the apron on the middle there, rejoining in the field into 23rd, actually. So he's not lost out as badly as I thought he would, but it still was a questionable decision, I think.
Yeah, very much so, and he's managed to do well. So it's Kenzie Newhoff, who's gained 3 places. So we knew he'd be good coming there from 7th place, and as we mentioned, it certainly has shown not to be a disaster indeed. Robert Lundgren tells us that tires die quickly indeed, 10 laps or so of over pushing them, and they'll be over the cliff, as you might say. So that's a thing worth mentioning and worth being mindful of as well. As I'll just have a check. There seems to be a problem with SDK. I've tried everything to get the gap times to work, but it shows like this, and as you can see, it's not going to be worth a lot indeed. So a little different it's going to be today, and of course I hope that it'll be running faultlessly for the next one.
Yeah, I think in the comments further up, obviously there is live timing link. So if you do want to have a quick another tab open with the live timing, then that option is there for you. Apologies that SDK is deciding to have a bit of a hissy fit with us today, but we have got lights off on the pace car, which means we are going to have racing this time round back underway at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Very excited. It's been a good race so far, 32 laps in, or 20 minutes of a 90-minute maximum amount of racing. I hope you guys have enjoyed it at home. I hope you guys have wanted to stay around and see how this one ends. Sergio Hernandez leads the field after having his nearly 2-second gap absolutely obliterated by the pace car. Hopefully we have a lot of green flag running now. Safety cars breed safety cars, but as the pace car comes in, Sergio Hernandez waits to drop the hammer, and there he goes. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing. Pablo Cortel on the inside of the team down on the car from Frederick Van Ekhoven. Kenzie Newhoff as well in 4th place, has lost out slightly in the top 5 or 6 is that. Absolutely driven away from everybody, but we saw that at the beginning, and then it turned into the top 10 driven away from everybody. So this is by all means not over. Hopefully we can make it all clean as the driver goes to the inside of Bart de Vos. No, Tim Perry couldn't quite make it, the boosted motorsport.
No, indeed, and a good start there from Cortel to keep his place up there in the top running order, and there's Bart de Vos as well, having gotten away nicely, and it seems everyone's learned the trade so far that coming from caution period, you always just have to be mindful of the cold tires on the open couple of rounds here. Bart de Vos now finds the boosted motorsports car of Tim Perry up the inside, and Tim decides to think twice about it. As you can see, maybe going for the very lower line. There isn't always the way, because Bart de Vos gets a huge run of overspeeds. He's going to be able to take not only 1, not only 2 cars, but he's locked in behind there as Newhoff goes up the inside of Cortel there into turn 1. Cortel really decides to fight it, as he's got fresh tires now. We know he have the pace when the rubber's fresh underneath him. He's shown us already, especially with that quick time in qualifying. Now, actually, he's going to try and assault Pablo and our Sergio Hernandez, of course. I'm sorry, up the head of affairs. It's all really kicking off here as we get the standings back. Further down the order, I'm just checking here, is Kurt van Honacker, who's up the inside of Stuart Musselwhite, or on the low side, if you will. That's, I think, the proper NASCAR expression to use. And in behind, a tightly wound bunch, and there's Steve Kleiss with Ryan Walker in there as well.
Yeah, the M&M's car of Steve Clay's obviously a car that I was critical of in the pace car period for not pitting in straight away, but he goes up the inside of the 565 of Opta, and he manages to get the move stuck as well, so clearly moving through. Probably knows a little bit more than I do, but speaking of drivers going through others, I think Bart de Vos is a driver who's certainly going to be trying to put the pressure on as much as possible. Sergio Hernandez a driver who's good with his tyres. We've already seen that this evening. Pablo Cortel, I'm sure, will be hoping for track position. Or has he learnt a little bit from the Spaniard who's currently up ahead? Because he's maybe just tucking them behind. As you see a car in the background there, getting very loose on the apron, having to go wide now. That's Tim Perry, and I think Matthew Sufi is going to go and take advantage as they're going too wide nearly everywhere.
But we're on to yellow flag again. We've had an incident, I'm afraid. So we're just going to go down and see if we can gather up just what happened. Doesn't seem to show anything here, so we'll have a look further down. The running order. Oh, and there is the calamity and end for unlucky Ryan Walker. A part of it yet again. Alongside. And yes, you see the pace car coming out there immediately. You said it before, Jacko. It has been confirmed yet again here that yellows breed yellows. They were going so slowly there on the outside, and I just don't think the drivers were really expecting that kind of pace differential there, that situation.
No, I think it's very similar to what we saw in the first pace car period, the first caution period, and the fact that it was a lot of drivers going full pace, catching up drivers who were maybe trying to recover and get back up to pace. Obviously, it's a bit of a difficult one to know which you should be doing in terms of, what you should be doing in terms of what's the safest procedure. But by the looks of it, a couple of drivers coming into the pits, but Kenzie Newhoff is staying out. In fact, his team down undercars and pair Frederick Van Ekhoven as well, staying out. So Sergio Hernandez and Pablo Cortel, two of the main front runners in this race, deciding to pit. So all of a sudden, we're seeing a change in strategy from a few drivers. Now this will throw the cat amongst the pigeon, the spanner in the works, and everything else, every other analogy you can classically think of, another cliche.
Indeed, it will get all the couples out on the dance floor and shake their things. And let's see what falls off the Christmas tree. No, I think that was my own creation as well. Not to get creative indeed with an analogy. I do enjoy that from time to time. Sometimes I just find myself just thinking, what are today's analogies going to be? And I just sit there and think,
that's how I imagine
that's very much not true. That's very much not true. Anyway, now that we have another caution period, what better time to go over and open another tab and check out Dynamixx Racing Simulators and their website. A link is in the description. And go check out our series sponsor. And of course, a big thanks for making all of this possible and all the action that we're bringing to you. Well, not right now because we're under pace car, but that's why you should jump off. So if you do so, be back in a few minutes and you won't miss a beat indeed. Good point made by Jacko there that we did have the two team down undercars and a fair, not the only ones actually, a fair few cars that chose not to pit. Bram van Uyften has jumped a large part of the field. He's up into third place. But I'm just thinking that if we get a long, extended period of green flag running, it could really come down and haunt the drivers that in the end didn't choose to come in for this very pit stop.
Yeah, well, we've had a couple of people, obviously Robert Lundgren on the comments saying that, you know, after 10 laps, the tyres are dead, especially if you're too hard on them. And realistically, we had about 5 to 6 laps of green running. So I was actually very surprised to see the drivers jumping into the pits. But as you said, if we now get an elongated, sort of an extended period of green flag running, and they're able to cleanly get through the order, Sergio Hernandez down in 11th place at the moment. If they can actually get through the field and make sure that they're actually, you know, not getting hit off or anything like that, as Brian Harris leads the pit, a bit of a late strategy call that one. Then they could be in a really, really strong position in about 10 laps time. But it all comes down to whether we get that extended caution period, green flag running, and whether they can actually get through without being hit or held up by anybody else, and how hard Kenzie Newhoff and Frederick Van Ekhoven decide to be, because obviously they're two teammates at the top of the field. They don't really have to push each other that hard as long as they trust that Van Uytven behind isn't going to go for that race lead and does the same thing.
It's a very good point, and just having to have a look down there. There is Hernandez. He's in 11th place, so there's a fair few cars in between. But also just knowing that he could very well just move his way up and up over the course of a few laps there, if you got a faster car, you can really take advantage. Every bit of grip that you can exploit is gonna really help you out big time in a situation like this. So lights are off, and that means that the next time we get the pace car coming round, not this turn because this is turn 1, and as you see, the cars are indeed lining up as well now. So we're getting close to coming back to green flag action here at Charlotte, and the 4th round of racing from the SRW Dynamixx NASCAR Winter Series. And what 3 rounds it's been so far. Hopefully the remaining 2 after this one is going to be just as great. We had really good racing, and as Jacko expertly pointed out, the change in strategy at this point could be a pivotal point in this race, and it could really turn out to both make and break whatever seems to be the thing that happens next in proceedings here. So turn 2 on the exit, we'll see the pace car peeling off, and it's then up to the 62 machine of Kenzie Newhoff of just when to go back to Boogity, and the green flag is gonna drop on him very shortly, and he goes early indeed. And I think a lot of cars were kind of caught out by that, Jacko, because they get spread out very well. Look at the advantage. And all the way down, you see still though 2 wide down to the midfield. There's going to be action all across the board down here as we try to have as much of a look at it as we can here with Sergio Hernandez. And one of the SRW Esports cars as well, and they're almost 4 wide into turn 2.
Tell you what, I think Hernandez and I can't see Cortel really need to work together here, but that mid-pack 3 wide nearly just behind here. I think that's Ian Roots, the boss, and there's a little bit of contact to the car in the wall, and that's Stephen Clays, unfortunately, the M&M car who's been around it, and the boss Ian Roots as well, who've been overtaken. I hope that doesn't have any big damage, but we have a Flemish Simsport car in the background as well, a car on the apron, and yet another caution period. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple of drivers coming in for that pit stop now. That's a 63 car that just got spearheaded around. That is Luke Hobson in the Altitude Esports car. Kimber Haight is the Flemish Simsport car you can see in the background. Kimber Haight, more like Kimby Hit, unfortunately, this portion period. But, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if Kenzie Newhoff and Frederick Van Ekhoven dive into the pits now to sort of cover off that pit stop that their rivals Pablo Cortel and Sergio Hernandez abused, well, not used and abused earlier on.
Yeah, that's certainly a situation that we could have been without. It happened very quickly just after coming back to green, basically on the first lap or so. So another turn of events here that proved rather ugly indeed. And it's going to be interesting to see if anyone actually jumps into the pits. It's sort of a second chance for the drivers who didn't pit in before to get their pit stops done now. However, they'll be at a huge loss in terms of track position compared to the drivers who took their pit stops before. So those who didn't could in turn very well turn out to be the grand losers of this scheme here, because they're not really going to sit on rubber that's much fresher. They're not going to have a vastly increased fuel load, so it means they're not going to be able to go for a far bit longer than any of the other drivers that pit not too long ago.
I think now that the obviously everybody's bunched up a little bit again, the likes of Kenzie Newhoff and Frederick Van Ekhoven, and I think it's basically the top 5 or 6 drivers, they're the ones who didn't pit first time round. That's why they've made Craig Jones is 21 places up, Van Ekhoven is 16 places up, and Van Uytven is 15 places up from where they started. I think they can't really take the pit stop now because, as you said, they won't be on that much fresher rubber. They'll be a long way down. They'll pretty much be in last place now if they came in for a tyre change. Realistically, they're going to have to try and just make their tyres work for them now and get back to a position where they think they can dump into the pits after some green flag running. But it's going to be hard for them now. That caution period can be so quickly after the last one is, difficult for those drivers.
Yeah, and it's it's a call that you got to make very quickly, indeed, and it's also something that you'll really have to stick with. You come in when you come in, either you don't, and just what the outcome of these decisions are isn't necessarily always clear to every single observer, at least that immediately. I think it'll take a trained eye to be able to be a little bit more, shall we say, calculative with these sorts of things. Still, the lights are on the pace car. We're half an hour into this race, which means we're a bit over a third of the way through time-wise. And this time around, the time is leading the laps here. So we'll see if we'll be able to get all of 160 laps in. At the moment, seems like we'll be hitting the 90-minute marker, though before that, regardless, it's whichever we get to the first that decides when the checkered flag is going to be dropped out there.
Yeah, the obviously 160 laps around Charlotte, even if it's a 30-second lap, let's say, which is probably the average that they'll do in this race. That is still an 80-minute race, and we only have 90 minutes to fill in. So even if we had 0 caution periods, obviously a caution period adds about a minute on per lap. So if somebody out there really wants to do the maths, but I think it pretty much means we're going to have to run to the time limit rather than the lap limit now. That's unfortunate the way it is, but it'll still be a nice long race for these drivers. With any luck, they'll be able to get some clean running now and enjoy themselves. So that's what we want. That's what they want. So with any luck, everybody calms down a little bit. They realise that they have cold tyres, because I think that's what's catching a lot of people out on this round and a lot of the rounds before. Is the fact that they're just not used to how the car handles, especially if they've pit in for those brand new tyres under caution periods. They haven't had the opportunity to warm them up. Then they go into a harsh banked corner, get spit out, get a little bit loose, going 2 or 3 wide, and ends up just a little bit of contact, and that can really mean the worst for a lot of drivers, a lot of cars, and we're back into a caution period. So they really need to make sure they warm their tyres up before they go harsh racing again.
Yeah, and it's something we've seen on plenty of occasions. And another thing that seems to be happening, I'll touch back on it later because we're about to go back to green, and I'm just going to pass over to you, Jacko, to take over. But the shuffling of the running order, the difference in grip levels of the tires seem to have an impact on at least one of the incidents we've seen within the last few minutes. Anyway, pace car is going to be peeling in, and Jacko's going to be taking you through the restart.
Yeah, let's have a look and see if everybody fingers crossed to make sure that we're going racing nicely this time round. Kenzie Newhoff is the driver who yet again is going to bring the pace and bring the noise here at Charlotte Motor Speedway as the pace car dives into the bits. Now, he went early last time. He's going to go early this time. He's dropped the metal already, and Frederick Van Ekhoven has followed him nicely as well. There's a bit of a gap between himself and the leader, but there's a bigger gap between Van Uytven and Van Ekhoven. So second and third place get away as well as first, obviously, and then the whole mid-pack gets very nicely bunched together yet again. We're on board here with Stephen DeWolf, but Kenzie Newhoff hasn't got anybody to worry about just yet. He's got his teammate just behind, the team down under cars, just ahead of Van Uytven, and then there's a whole host of cars hoping to be fourth and challenge for that podium position. There's a whole host of cars indeed getting side by side and into the wall and into the apron. The 63 car. No! There we go. I was about to say brilliant car control. And we're back under caution period. So, as I was about to hopefully hand over to Hasse, I'm actually going to tell you guys to go and check out our sponsors yet again, because we do love to drop this one in every time. Well, not every time there's a caution period, but every so often during the caution period. It's a brilliant time to go and check out the links below and see our Dynamixx sponsors while we just have a couple more looks at the incident.
Yeah, indeed. And I'm just going to see if I can get it back to where we can really have a good look. Might have been a little too late there. I'll try again. Here's Luke Hobson, gets a little loose there on the inside, and he picks up what I think is the quantum car of Paul Gosling. And unlucky, Paul Gosling pretty much just a passenger, though, in that situation. Welcome you. Good to have you along as always. Vince Peters. Go, go, go. And then maybe in the end, not so much. Indeed, interestingly, though we might not have the pit lane open yet. Still drivers that are choosing not to come in, so it seems at least. Although I could be proven very wrong when they come around. And I'd be surprised by now, Jacko, to see if they're not peeling off any of them. We'll go to the pit lane cam. Let's give us a good view. That's one of the Simracersworld esports cars. That's Stuart Musselwhite in the 18 machine. Thijs van den Bergen is in as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, again, I mean, we've only really had a whole host of cars going in now, but I think they were the cars that were damaged in the crash, to be honest. But we haven't really had that much green running. We've had about, I don't know, 3 to 4 laps maximum, so realistically, they're only 3 to 4 laps older than they were when they stuck the tyres on in the first place, these drivers who jumped into the pits. So it's not long enough, really, for them to be worn out and for it to be an advantage for Kenzie Neuwirth and the likes to actually go on to a new set, because they'll only be about 3 to 4 laps newer. They won't be quick enough to get them from last place all the way back up to a potential podium position, even if there's a fuel differential or anything like that. They needed a good 3, 4, 5 laps of green running then to wear the tyres out for the likes of Sergio Hernandez, for Kenzie Neuwirth to then jump in, and then he'll be on fresh, 10 lap newer rubber, which means he could then charge back through the order and try and challenge them for the top spot. It's a difficult one now. It's we're not really seeing anything coming to the front here, because it's sort of stagnant at the moment.
Yeah, it is. It's been status quo for a good few minutes now with these caution periods following a couple of incidents that seem to be the product of the caution period that came before it, to be honest. And I think third time's the charm for the field here. I just have a feeling, without jinxing too much, and I'm not going to wood this time around, because I'd like to spare both you and my neighbors of the sound of my otherwise lovely hound barking indeed. Here's Greg Franks as well in the 99 machine. He's on, I was about to say on the wheel, he's on the bumper of a very fast gentleman as well. That's Sergio Hernandez. And Hernandez could really be the one to watch here. He's just 2 positions down from Pablo Cortel. And just to wonder, should the 2 cars will be ahead after a few laps of green running here. It's going to be interesting to see. Lights are still on of other pace cars, so still a bit of a breathing space, a bit of time left, and an opportunity for you to visit our sponsor's website, Dynamixx Racing Simulators. Of course, a link is in the description. And although I might have been slightly joking here, because at some point I'm going to have to be doing that. Otherwise, I'm going to have a hard time repeating myself so much. But I have to say, that is the trait of a professional, is to be able to do stuff like that as well, convincingly. So I still have some work to do. I'm getting there. I'm getting better. We're all developing here. And hopefully, at some point, you'll hear me sell a lot of product for people. We'll have some happy sponsors. With that out of the way, let's see if the lights have gone out. And oh, Jacko, it's I think it's your turn on the old switcheroo of taking the restarts here, as pace car lights have gone out.
Yeah, they have. We've got about a minute to spare though, and I was just trying to think of ways we can sort of things we can fill in with these caution periods if we have any more of them. And I think obviously you love to have a bit of a prayer at the beginning of these streams, Hasse. And I think it might be a good opportunity to maybe everybody who's commenting and who's watching this to give it a quick comment and say, what would you like to see in the Hasse prayer before the start of round 5, I believe we're at next week, because that'd be really interesting and really fun as well. And maybe Hasse can take some notes, or I can take some notes, and we'll see what the best things that people put in there are, that's for sure. But we are about to go racing. Kenzie Neuwirth yet again will, I believe, be the pace car, unless Frederick Van Eckhoven, I think he's just gotten ahead around the outside, but it will be Kenzie. There we go, moves into the top of the order yet again, as we see the really rather good looking shot from the back of the back wheel going along the apron. It's almost like you're touching the ground there. When it's at full chap, you really get a good sense of speed from this camera angle and a good sense of how close the cars are behind and how the cars are reacting. But as we're about to go green, everybody hold on to your hats. Let's hope for green racing. And we're away. Kenzie's dropped the hammer yet again. Van on the outside. We can't quite see him just yet. But I'll tell you what, the team out under, they haven't been caught out once in these restarts. They haven't been caught out again here because Van Uytvan's actually got a bit of a pressure from the back of Van Okerke and actually Pablo Cortel, who's gotten his way back up to 4th place. So that is the highest driver who has got the newer tyres on. So if you're thinking about how the strategy is going to work out, Cortel and Hernandez are bumper to bumper, and they're all the way up already up to 4th and 5th position, trying to chase down the team down under cars.
Indeed, and that's just an illustration of how quickly you can move up there. Pablo Cortel and Hernandez as well. They went up 4 or 5 places in the space of, what, 1 lap? That is incredible. Mind you, a lap takes 30 seconds here. That's a big difference in speed there. Van Uytvan seems to be going nicely, though, up the head of affairs and putting himself in there to have a fight indeed. And they're close. Here is Matthew Sufi in 8th place. He's on the bumper end of Craig Jones. Craig Jones in the SCCR by Delta Sport car. Still too wide up ahead. And I think that's Hernandez trying to get around the long way around Van Uytvan, and he has a decent amount of success doing that. He's up into 4th place. Cortel up into 3rd. Still Nieuwhof, Van Ekhoven leading. And then Kurt van Honacker for KV Racing there in the number 7 machine up ahead of the aforementioned Craig Jones. And then for Simracersworld Esports in the 64 car, it's Matty Sufi.
Yeah, no surprise to see Cortel and Hernandez absolutely carving through the field a lot quicker than everybody else around them. Nieuwhof and Van Ekhoven, they will absolutely know that they're going to be basically sitting ducks at this point. Their tyres are a lot older than those two coming through, and I believe this may be a bit of a shootout for the top 2 between Cortel and Hernandez. And we saw Cortel really chew through his tyres. The pole sitter, obviously, chewed through his tyres in the first 10 positions. Oh, the team down in the car just to the right of Hernandez here is really getting very close to Cortel. This is the point where Hernandez just needs to be a little smarter. He knows that the 2 team down under cars have got older tyres than him. Cortel's on the same age tyre, but if you can use Cortel to punch that hole in the air, get through the traffic, do the hard work for him and chew his tyres up, then he'll have an opportunity to maybe have 1 or 2 extra laps of life in these tyres and maybe push on. Or he could ignore me completely and go straight up the inside like he's just done.
Indeed, he just found his way and he took it when he saw the chance arising. And Sergio Hernandez is now going to be looking, and I think he's going to be looking rather intensively to try and find his way through on the 2 team down under cars, because as you said, that tire advantage isn't going to be working his way forever. Here's Blum Van Uytvan getting caught up in a bit of a sandwich there with the 7 car on the inside, and that's Van Honacker getting past, and let's see if anyone else fancies a move in this situation. That's a very, very, very close group, and these are all the sorts of circumstances that makes the commentators go a little nervous there as Sufi drives to the inside, and that was just ahead of Bart de Vos. Oh, and that just the slightest of touches there, and I don't know how they kept that running. Sufi now he has to take a bit of care there with Bart de Vos on his outside in the 6 car, and in the end he ends up paying the price and losing out on a position or 2. Nieuwhof is now having Sergio Hernandez, who's already gotten past on Frederik van Ekhoven, and I think Kenzie Nieuwhof there in the lead in the 62 machine isn't going to hold out for too long, as Pablo Cortel fancies a bit of that top 3 pie as well, and he takes a big old piece of it. Wants to keep it till the end of the race, till someone's gonna get, there you go, eat your piece of pie now. And if you were still singing on a podium piece, well, that's it. Analogies aplenty here from me, myself, and I in the booth. And if you're lucky, Jacko is gonna come up with a bit of his brilliance as well on that side, and we're gonna have a very good evening as well. Craig Jones almost getting tackled there by Bart de Vos. It's not the first time we've seen de Vos. He's dancing a fine line, and it's an act of balance, and he's pulling it off for the moment. And look at these cars. This is 3 cars that momentarily before were within a tenth of a second, and I don't know what other sorts of motorsports you see that in.
Now look at how Sergio Hernandez just able to just pull that instantly. A little bit of a gap there. I thought Cortel was going to get stuck a little bit, but I have to say, Newhoff and Veneco are actually doing a brilliant job considering they're on such older tyres compared to the two drivers that are trying to pull through them. They're doing an awesome job keeping them there, keeping with them as well. It's not like they've just been carved through and then sent away. They're doing a really, really stand-up job here. And Hernandez now is obviously in the driver's seat. He's overtaken not only Cortel, but he's obviously overtaken the other two drivers that they were trying to side through. Cortel's really been stuck in this position now. He needs to get past. He needs to try and get onto the back of Sergio Hernandez, because otherwise we'll see what we basically saw 20 laps in, which was a good 1.5, 2 second gap for Sergio Hernandez against the rest of the field. Now, when is Newhoff and Verhoeven going to get into the mix? John Tusting now, what's happened to him? 999 car?
Nothing happened. It was just me being alert to the fact that the car got passed by several other cars very quickly. And sometimes that spells trouble. This time it spelled pit stop for someone under green flag, which is certainly not what you want to see here. But the Fuss, yet again, trying his best to get past on Kurt van Hoenacker there on the inside. He's got the high line here. He could use it to gain a bit of overspeed if he's smooth enough on his wheel. Right now, he's just trying to see if he can gain. Maybe the side drafts is going to help him out. He's got Brand van Uyften to look to maybe give him a bit of assistance as well. There he goes, cuts in ahead, and he gains the position.
Yeah, good driving by them. And again, we jump to the front of the field, and the front three just measured themselves out just a touch as well. As tell you what, Hasse, you're getting a lot of love in the chat as well. You maybe want to change over to have a look at that, because
oh my word.
You are indeed, yeah, you're absolutely loving it. And I think some people are imagining a little bit of an American Pie situation though with your dog. So let's hope that's not at least caught on the stream. Yeah, they're absolutely loving it. We're loving this racing as well, it has to be said. Here's Bram van Uyften, Van Hoenacker and Franks as well. And three drivers who are often sort of towards the top end of the top 10, really giving it a good drive now, trying to make sure that they're trying to catch the top order. A car with a big dent in his backside, though, by the looks of that, was Brian Harris going side by side on the low route. Steve Clays against, I think that's Walker in the 18 car. No, it's Musselwhite, Stuart Musselwhite. So, yeah, Steve Clays trying to get through the order and follow Brian Harris through.
Yeah, indeed. I think you jumped a bit to conclusions there. I don't know. I don't think there was a connection between the American Pie and my dog. Although for sure, my dog would like a piece of pie as well. She ain't get none because hell, it'll make her sick. but anyway, back to racing and the racing at hand. Here we've got a very, very nice of a bunch action going on here. All these drivers just outside the top 10. And still fighting for very, very respectable positions here as well. Somewhere in there, there he is. The urban camo machine, if you will, of Ian Roots, the big boss here at Simracersworld, who had the pleasure of actually getting to speak to after some of these races here up ahead. You just see the difference almost in impetus there, Jack, as we went across to the group ahead.
Well, you can see an absolutely huge difference between the likes of Sergio Hernandez car. It looks like it's been hit in the gym. It's squatting that low over these corners. It's absolutely a brilliant sort of drive by Hernandez so far. He's top of the order in the championship for a reason. I mean, we can't be surprised by this kind of performance. But I tell you what, it's going to be very close between Cortel and Newhoff. A Cortel I expected to get through a lot quicker than he did. But this little battle here between Veneco and Van Uyften and Fransk is going to be really heating up. But here is Cortel maybe trying to put the pressure on the team down under car. Van Uyften hasn't been dropped either, it's worth noting that. And here we go. Cortel on the inside of the 62 car. We've seen how easy it is to carry the momentum around the outside, but on these old tyres, how is he going to manage it? He's managed it absolutely superbly, and now he dives to the inside to try and cover off the move. And here comes Van Uyften up the inside of Pablo Cortel, the 23 car. Purple car's on the outside. How is he going to manage this situation? He's struggling a little bit as the team down under cars are trying to work together to try and trap him in a little bit of a a limbo situation here, not letting them pass, not letting them catch the momentum. As soon as there's an opportunity, Van Ekhoven's diving in.
Yeah, that was very opportunistic as well, and a good bit of harassment there from teammate Fredrik Van Ekhoven, of course, teammate of Kenzie Newhoff, as I think Cortell was looking just for a bit of space that wasn't there on the high side. As you can see, Kenzie Newhoff and his tires, they might be going, because this time around, Pablo Cortell's got the inside line, he's got overspeed, and there's going to be no defending that. At least that's my call here. It's going to be an insane piece of it if he does go through it indeed. And it seems to me that Kenzie Newhoff now really begins to suffer with his pace. Here's Van Honacker, who still has the relative close company of Greg Franks in behind. Up ahead is Adam Wright, the third of the Team Down Under drivers, who's gained 17 places since we started. And that was an incredible one to see. 17 places, that's a good gain. Van Honacker's gained 13 positions as well, so certainly not a bad position to be in for him. And look down the order here, a very, very tight group of racers here. Jacko, they're really going at it, and I think in the number 5 machine, yes indeed, that is Thijs van den Berge. It's the 65 car of Jochen Lennertz, and in between those two is two Flemish Sim Sports machines. That's Hendrik de Grave in the first one of them, the 87. It's Anton Dupin in the 14, and then Jan Tusting and Paul Gosling in the 2 Quantum Tars. So it's a 6-way, 3-team, inter-team battle going on here, and it's very close indeed.
Yeah, Van den Berg swapping out horsepower for reindeer power on the side of his car, the number 5. One of the favourite liveries shared by quite a few but watching last week, and it's so close to the outside of the 87 car. I think that's Hendrik de Grave we're focusing on. So de Grave in the 87 Flemish Simsport car on the outside is now being overtaken by Van den Berg. And by the looks of it, that's letting Leonard get through. Tell you what, hello, Muscle White on the inside of Ryan Walker. Sorry, on the outside of Ryan Walker. Brilliant move there to make it through, as we're back on board with Van den Berg, who has managed to get past Hendrik de Grave. And the Flemish Simsport cars really sort of not where we expected them to be honest. We often associate them with being further up the order. But Ian Roots, the boss, is getting his nose stuck in here. The Simracersworld boss, he always loves to come into the comments box and have a word afterwards. I'm sure if he has an enjoyable race here, he'll be back in the interview waiting room as soon as we're off the broadcast.
Yeah, and
off the race, sorry, my bad.
He'll be in for an interview once we've closed for interviews.
Yes, my bad, yeah, I got that one a bit wrong.
That's a good old Jackoism, if ever I've heard one, and we'll get that written down. And as they get close to one another, there, Ian and Hendrik almost having a bit of friendly contact. Here is Fredrik Van Ekhoven, he's up into third place. Newhoff just lost another position, and look at Bart de Vos, yet again, absolutely flying pace-wise, and just having a look on his last lap, that was a 30.88, going quicker than the car in front, that's for sure, and very much keeping pace with Fredrik Van Ekhoven. Up ahead, Hernandez and Cortell is very much on a similar pace, but those laps that it took Pablo Cortell to actually get by on those 2 Team Down Under machines has really cost him yet again. And we're seeing for the second time this race, it's Sergio Hernandez who's beginning to etch away at the front of the field.
Yeah, well, like you said, it's very difficult for Cortell now to close that gap without ruining his tyres. He had to get past Newhoff and Van Ekhoven quicker than he did, but he is where he is at the moment. Whether he's tuned his tyres up, I'm not too sure, but by the looks of it, Van Ekhoven's actually got a new lease of life into those tyres, so I'm going to be very interested to see, now we've had some green running, the tactics and the sort of system that these guys are running must come into play now. As you see, Bart de Vos getting through on Newhoff. So we were wondering where Bart de Vos was. He was all the way down in 8th, 9th and 10th sort of area. But he slides up the inside here, the 62 car of Kenzie. And just manages, is that avoiding contact? It was Kenzie coming down to take a little bit of a touch. There is a bit of a touch. And that's maybe why there's such a big gap. Luckily, no harm done either way. But Kenzie's definitely struggling with those times.
Yeah, very much so. And another one who seems to be losing the pace advantage that he clearly had earlier over Frederick van Eekhoven is indeed Professor Cortell, who seems to be suffering on the tires ever so slightly. And he's having a tough time defending. It's going to be a tough time if he intends at least to keep on defending. Here's Brian Harris. He's back up into 11th place. He's on the outside. It's the 7 and the 8 car here. It's Van Honacker on the inside. This is the gate to the top 10 as they're fighting for it indeed. With Bram van Heufden right on the tail. He'll be looking for scraps if he can make his way through as well. Here I think it's Brian Harris who chose the right side of the road, so to say. He picked the longest straw. And his way around, and yet again here comes, oh, Cortell's on the outside. This is Van Eekhoven on the inside getting through. Very much is the 477 car of Team Down Under is back up into second place. And I'll tell you what, Jacko, they keep scrapping at it for a second here. They're gonna let Hernandez off leash. He's gonna run off like a greyhound into the distance.
Yeah, well, like I said before, he's not the championship leader for nothing, and the best of the best always find themselves into situations where they just don't let anything else affect them, and that's exactly what Hernandez is doing right now. He carved through the field. Here's Ian Roots against the reindeer livery of the number 5 cars. A bit of a touch on the outside by the Paul Gosling in the Flemish in Quantum Racing team, sorry. Car just behind, so that's stopping his chances of maybe throwing it up the inside. But yeah, Vandenberg and Ian Roots really going nose to nose, bumper to bumper, which is really great for us to see as well. And it's, I have to say, there's been a lot more closer racing throughout the entirety of this race than there was in the previous 2 or 3 rounds. So it's brilliant to see these guys sort of going toe to toe, especially even in the midfield, the front. Wherever you look, there's often a fight going on. Speaking of which, Kimber Haight leading Steve Clays. Now this is going to be a very interesting battle. Steve, who's been in the wars a little bit in the M&M's car, he's been up and down, left and right, and he's actually been pretty much on our screens for the entirety of this race. Brilliant to see him having a good run at it against the Flemish Simsport car, who is more or less probably where we'd expect him to be now, around that top 10 area.
Yeah, very much so, and it's nice to see that for the first time, I think this race is really beginning to stretch out. Here's Greg Franks, who I think has lost a lot of speed somehow, and I don't know if we can really do anything to get a rewind of what actually happened there for Greg's a few moments ago, but he's certainly got himself in the thick of it now, as both Kimber Haight and Steve Clays gets past. And behind these now into the top 10 goes Brian Harris. So even with the bumper there hurt, if you will, it's got the mark of a NASCAR machine punched into the back end, and it doesn't seem to be affecting him too much. He's got very good pace at the moment, and he's looking to pick up points today. Brian Harris on a charge.
Yeah, he is indeed, and as he's trying to look up the inside of Gregory Vrantz, it seems that he has got just another gear compared to these drivers at the moment. Vrantz goes high and wide and almost pretty much lets Brian Harris through, goes the low route, and now we were talking about the battle between Clays and Haight. Well, it's going to be another battle on board here as well. Some other drivers have obviously joined in on the mix, and is the 99 car of Gregory Vance just using him as a bit of an opportunity to get some drafting and maybe get him to do the work before he actually launches an attack on Steve Clays. Only time will tell, I suppose. With any luck, it doesn't end up in a caution period. I didn't see why there was a car on the apron there.
I don't know. I don't see any real trouble. I think that might be Fredericks who is pitting in. Oh, that's a hurt car if ever we've seen one. But no sign, at least on the event viewer, of anything really bad having happened. And that's, of course, not really the luck of Fredericks, but the luck of everyone else running at the moment. He's going to lose out big time on that pit stop. Here is indeed Brian Harris charging ahead. He's going to be attempting to see if he can find a way through on the drivers here while he's got the pace advantage. I think you have to be mindful of not pressing too hard when you're close into a car in front as well, because I would imagine it to be tougher on the tires when you're in that completely bit of dead air, very much tucked in the slipstream, because whatever aerodynamic grip is added from the downforce, that's going to be lessened when you're in the slipstream. And we've heard Drivers talking about the fact that it can be troublesome as well for engine temperatures to actually sit too close for a long bit of time. It's very close racing indeed, Mew, and that is indeed the charm of ovals. And in particular, I want to say the charm of NASCAR. Here's Steve Kleiss is finding his way up the inside of Kimby Haight, and he's going to be taking that position, I think. Although this might just be what Brian Harris needs to go 3 wide there. Kimby Haight shuts him off. That's Steve Kleiss, of course, in the number 3 M&M's car, because Kimby Haight is in the 86 on the high side here, and is not really getting any much out of it. And so far, Brian Harris getting loose on exit there of turn 1, and if you will, then it's back to as they were, unless Kimby Haight was just looking for it. But no more than that. Here's Ryan Walker, having enjoyed a fast repair after that last incident. He's running well at the moment here. The tail of Matthew Sufi for SRW Esports, who's very much been up there on previous occasions earlier this season. He's having a tougher race this time around here. Is Bram van Uyften, who seems to be suffering a little bit pace-wise. I think those tires for Bram look very tired indeed. Pardon the pun. And what's going on down here? It's Vandenberge and Rudolph, the happy reindeer car on the number 5 machine there, getting a little slowed down as he started sliding up the racetrack, and that's a dangerous thing to do indeed. Just gonna have a check-in with our race leaders here, and the current situation is Sergio Hernandez leading Frederick van Eekhoven by over 2 seconds. And then it's another 1.3 seconds down to Professor Cortel, with Bart de Vos there now in 4th place. And look at this, Jacko. The gap down to Kenzie Newhoff behind these drivers is up to a massive, at least in NASCAR terms, 6.4 seconds. And look at Kenzie. He's bleeding time at the moment. Everybody seems to be passing, and it's a bad place to be for him.
Yeah, and he's properly aggressively coming across the nose of Steve Kleiss there, who's now actually been compromised against that fight that we've been watching for so long between Kimby Haight and Brian Harris and himself. And as you say, he's bleeding time there, Newhoff. He's actually, I looked at it a couple of laps ago, he's a second almost down on the front runners now per lap. And when you consider it's only about a 30-second lap, it's absolutely huge margins that you're losing if you think about it like this, over 30 laps, which we do very quickly here. Only takes 15 minutes to do 30 laps. He's a lap down in 15 minutes, basically, if he carries on with this kind of pace differential. So he really needs to up his game here. He needs to either throw something into the mix, he needs to jump into the pits or something, because he's really bleeding far too much time. And although he obviously won last time out in round 3, he's definitely not going to have any chance at a podium if he carries on like this, because here goes Steve Kleiss, who just looks like he's got another gear. It's like watching a Fast and Furious film. This is, he just shifts down, and all of a sudden he's punched up the inside, and the team down under car is certainly going down under. Yeah,
it is. It's a bit of a shame to see, and it's evident that strategy. And he's coming in. He's coming in under green flags, I think. Very much so. Kenzie Newhoff realizes there's going to be no other way. So strategy backfiring for Kenzie Newhoff here. And now the question is it going to be the same way around for his teammate there at the head of affairs? Frederick van Eekhoven is now is coming in again. He's coming in as well. So that's both the team down under cars that didn't pit are now both coming in for pit stops in a situation where you could say this is far from optimal indeed. Is one of the few green flag pit stops we've seen for the very top running cars this season. They've always had a caution period, almost, as Adam Wright there on the outside of Bart de Vos, I think. And that's on Brian Harris, of course, I'm sorry, but still, they were close, and I think that's Behade now squeezing Adam Wright to the outside, on the high side, if you will, and he's well past there as well. That's 2 places lost. Cortel's in as well, and Hernandez. So both of the Spaniards pitting in. Sergio Hernandez, our championship leader, Professor Cortel, they're going to be far down the running order. And you know what could really, really create some havoc for a lot of the drivers now. Not maybe right now, but in a couple of laps. Not that I'm in any way saying we should have it, but it could really create problems if we did get a caution period right about now. Oh, and Brian Harris has had an issue. Oh, and there's contact between himself and Behayden. I'm just gonna see whether the crash is him heading into the side of the pit lane. Oh my word! And it's not brought out the safety car, so Brian Harris, who was charging through the field, has been hit around the backside again, and seemed to be the second time around in the race, and very, very unlucky indeed. And look at Steve Glass is also was that went past on Steve Glass, or was it the other way around? Anyways, it's Steve Glass leading Adam Wright, John Tusting now in third place, then Kim Behayden in fourth. There on the inside is, I think, Bart DeFoss pitting in as well. We're going to see what looks to be a pit stop round under green flags here, and it's really, really, really going to be shoveling up the action. And of course, if we keep it running for long enough for everyone to make that pit stop, it should pretty much neutralize itself, but that's a lot to ask for here, as Vandenberge is fighting it away for 10th place with Stuart Musselwhite.
Yeah, it's just all of a sudden got very, very interesting with something that we don't often see around the SRW NASCAR Series, which is actually planned pit stops. And I think it must have been a reaction, Hernandez's and Cortel's call to come in, because they saw that the team down under cars had finally made their pit stops. They knew that they were already in such an advantage compared to the team down under. It's basically gaining a free pit stop for them now. They're now under the same schedule as their rivals, but they have the track position by such a long way compared to the likes of Kenzie Newolf, that they really can take that pit stop, be on an equal schedule, and make sure that they're pushing now just as hard as their rivals, and they'll pretty much stay in the same place. It's all about gap management, but it's all popping off now. Here is a replay of Sergio Hernandez going up the inside of the 565 car, and just making that look easy with the new tyres. And in comes Adam Wright, the last of the team down under cars to come in for the pits. And Adam, who's done an absolutely amazing effort, 19 places gained. He's going to lose a whole host of them in the pit stops window. Don't get me wrong, but as everybody bleeds into the pits, we had a crash going into the pits yet again. We'll see it all equal out in about 2-3, probably by lap 110.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's a good point and a good call. Here's now Dupin up into fourth place. Vandenberge and Musselwhite. That battle, that was for 10th place a few moments ago. That's now a battle for 5th indeed, as Musselwhite is taking on the inside there. And look at Hernandez now with all the cars pitting in. He's back up into 7th place. So it seems that they've been running for green flag long enough for the leading cars not really to be hampered too much, but you can just see what's hampering right now is the amount of traffic up ahead. It is almost turning dangerous there with Musselwhite. You can just see the pace difference, and I don't really think that Sergio Hernandez was really prepared for just how much of a difference it is. And mind you, he still has Frederick Van Eekhoven, who's on a very similar strategy, just slightly younger tires, and they just march on through up the inside there. Incredible stuff.
Yeah, he's that's how difficult it can be, really, with this sort of like area of the field. But Hernandez up to 4th place now. Yeah, getting through the field when there's such a speed differential between you and the likes of the cars that are maybe on 30-lap old tyres, it's really difficult, and you have to make sure you're measuring that, because obviously drivers who are on 30-lap old tyres might be fighting for position with 3 other cars that might be on similarly aged tyres, and you come up screaming behind them on your own, thinking you just want to get past as quickly and easily as possible. It's not like you're lapping a car. They don't get blue flags. You have to actually race through them. Charlotte Tusting is in the pits now, and we're starting to see everybody bleed back into where they were. A couple of drivers being lapped as well. In fact, half the field has been lapped. But indeed, not a lot of people have actually sort of taken their pit stop yet. So, as I said, a couple more laps and we'll see it'll all sort of die down yet again, and we'll see where we're at running into the final. Well, we're already into the final 20 minutes of this race. It's flown by.
Absolutely. Last time I remember checking, we were more or less half an hour into the race, and to think that 40 minutes has gone since then, that's absolutely insane. Here's leaving up the big for the Cactus Racing team in the 565 car. He seems to be ever so slightly off the pace here, as I think Paul Gosling has had some kind of incident. He's been off track, but he hasn't had any kind of crash. I think, oh, he's jumping down there on the grass. He needs to get off the grass, I'm afraid, because it could get very bumpy. It could damage the car down there, but I think he will live to see another day from an otherwise relatively sketchy position to be in. Anton Dupin and Stuart Musselwhite, both of them pitting in right around now, and that means and leaves Steve Kleiss in the lead. And we have a yellow flag. We have a... Oh, that's a huge one for Kim Bahade.
Yeah, he's doing exactly what we just saw before, but this time it doesn't end up as nice little big hit by Brian Harris. Yeah, really, as I said before, I used the pun before, I'm going to use it again. Kimber hate, more like Kimby hit, unfortunately. Straight into the air that time, and yeah, not exactly ideal going into the wall. And then, yeah, just a passenger, really, after that, after he decided to go rally crossing. Trying for the new SRW League, the new NASCAR/Rallycross Series, coming to you live with Hasse and Jack in the box.
That's going to be an interesting one to watch. That is for sure. And this one's going to be a very interesting one as well. I'm expecting that a few of the drivers that... look at that. Some of them are going to be staying out, maybe taking their chances of holding on to track position. But Kleiss comes in. That's, of course, going to be for sure, because he's going to be staying right where he was. And he's going to be basically getting this pit stop for free if everyone else decides to do the same thing. Hernandez comes in. Van Eekhoven comes in. Cortel comes in. And Newhoff comes in. And so as well does Bart de Vos, which was basically the cars that were running in the top 5. Actually, the entirety of the top 6 has now come into the pits. And no one else has decided to come in, at least not yet. So whether we'll see the rest of the field pitting in as well at some point, or if it's only going to be the top runners here, I'm going to be quite interested. Certainly, I think it will be a good call. We have just about 15, 16 minutes left of the race. Effectively, that's going to be more something like 12 minutes left of the race once we get the final couple of formation and pace car laps here done with. And with that said, it makes perfect sense to have fresh tires for a run of that distance.
Yeah, I'm really not surprised that those drivers pitted in. Kenzie Newhoff probably learned from the mistake that they made last time in the fact that Cortel and Hernandez obviously pitted, and that changed the entire complexion of this race for them, especially the fact that they were caught on the older tyres. Well, they've decided that this time that's not going to be the mistake that they make this time round. They're pitting in with the other front runners. What surprises me is the fact that more cars didn't do it straight away. We see a few bleeding into the pits now, but I realise that we've only got 12 minutes to go. It'll be, yeah, probably more like 12 minutes to go. And everyone's just done a bit of a round of pit stops, so I understand they may be wanting track position. But it does surprise me slightly that people aren't jumping into the pits. But the fact that Kleiss, Hernandez, Van Eekhoven, Van Uytven, Cortel and Newhoff are going to be the top 6, we're going to have a really strong end to this race. And it's going to be very, very interesting as well. Hopefully we don't get any caution periods. The last thing we want to do is end the race under caution. So I am praying, I'm touching wood, I'm doing everything for 15 minutes or 12 minutes of green flag running.
And we'll see just what it amounts to in the end. I might be wrong, but we're at, 14 minutes remaining now. And if we get another lap after this one behind the pace car, it could very much be what we're looking at here. I think we've had pretty much everyone in this.
Like to say, and apologies to the Mew and everybody else watching. I will promise I'll do no more puns. We had a few comments saying that they find it. Well, I'll try and hold back, put it that way.
Oh, that's no more puns. That's because Mew said a Jack in the box.
I didn't even mean that one. I'm pretty proud of it, but I didn't mean it.
Well, those are the best ones. Those that just arise out of nowhere, out of nothing, out of the thin blue skies, if you will. The thin air, blue skies. Two sides of the same thing. Or, I don't know, thin air. That's high up in the atmosphere. Blue skies, that's something that happens up there as well. So, for once, you could say, in a way, I'm sort of right. Doesn't happen all the time. Doesn't happen every too often, anyways. I suspect that the reason we're having the drivers line up too wide this time around is that we're gonna go back to green flag racing, which means more boogity, and a lot of cars passing the safety car here, the pace car, if you will, and I'm a bit surprised to see that. Anyways, Jacko, it's gonna be Steve Kleiss leading him off, but he's gonna have the company of Sergio Hernandez there on his outside, and then right in behind, rowing up, is 2 team down under cars. It's Cortell in 4th on the outside, and in 6th place in the number 6 car is Bart de Vos.
Yeah, we're all hoping to get 12 minutes of clean racing here for the finale of basically the round 4 race. It's basically going to be a sprint race, Hasse, and well, as I said, we're just all hoping that it goes cleanly and we actually get the race that we're all hoping for, because let's face it, this is an absolutely stellar lineup. As the pace car comes in, it's Steve Kleiss to lead them away, who's found himself all of a sudden in amongst a potential win here, and he's actually got a fantastic start away. Now we know Sergio Hernandez has done a really good job before of managing the gap and getting through and then accelerating away from the field, but this time he's going to have to get past the M&M's car up ahead of him, who goes a little bit wide, but he just manages to hold on to the position of Sergio Hernandez, and the 47 car of Fredrik Eckhoven is on the outside in 3rd place. He's going to try and push for first, though, if he potentially can. Pablo Cortell, the pole sitter, is the man you're watching in 4th place, and they're going 3 wide around the outside. Goes the team down under car of Fredrik Eckhoven, and he's into the lead. Sergio Hernandez is still in 3rd place. Steve Kleiss hasn't been running at the front end of the field, probably feeling a bit like a fish out of water here, but he's doing a sterling job, and he'll be desperate to try and secure a podium position. Cortell will also want to be securing that, turning that pole position into a podium if he potentially can, but Eckhoven absolutely crushing the restart.
Very much so. A very good start there from Fredrik, and now it's a good run here from Steve Kleiss, who might just be looking at an outside run on Sergio Hernandez, but Hernandez wise to it indeed. Cortell now down into 5th place, and then a little bit of gap down to Bart de Vos there. Oh, so Kip Behade suffering technical issues, and something in his computer obviously not answering my prayers there from before the race. That is a bad one indeed. Here, a very good move before from Fredrik Eckhoven, but he's going to have trouble defending this one from Sergio Hernandez, who takes the lead. And look at that, Steve Kleiss in the number 3 M&M's machine. He's up there as well. He's trying to follow on through. He's very much looking for it. Not enough overspeed to really get alongside the 2 cars ahead. Well, I think he would be hoping to be able to make it 3 wide at some point here. We're into the final 10 minutes of racing, and with 40 laps to go on the counter, that's certainly going to be for sure that these 10 minutes are going to be the final ones, no matter how they proceed, and that's going to be under caution or not. Anyways, we're under green flag at the moment. We've had some very nice, long, extended periods of green flag running in this 4th round of racing in this beautiful Winter NASCAR Series. Of course, brought to you by Dynamixx Racing Simulators. Here's Bram van Hoeften, by the way, speaking of team, Dynamixx Racing Simulators in the 2H4 machine. He's chasing down Matthew Sufi, and Adam Wright's in there as well. He's trying to get past on, well, who was that on the outside? I think that's a lap car, because it's Sufi and Wright going forward at the moment. There's a bit of there's a bit of very close action here at the front of the field, double 2 wide. And within the final 10 minutes, this is the spicy end of things. It's Fredrik Eckhoven on the outside of Sergio Hernandez, and behind it Steve Kleiss with Kelsey Newhoff in the 62 machine. And then Pablo Cortell, the professor, in the 23 car, just biding his time. And you know what, Jacko? I think Pablo Cortell is in a very good position here.
Yeah, he'll certainly be enjoying the last 9 minutes if it stays like this, and he can potentially gain a bit of overspeed and maybe just scream past all of them. I think on the first round of the SRW NASCAR Series, I wasn't here for it, but it seems to be a very exciting end, and it looks like we're lining for that up yet again. As I said, I touch all the wood around me and hope the commentator's curse doesn't come to bite me in the ass, but Eckhoven, we saw him come onto the podium position in the last round. He came into the booth and he said that he wanted to try and get onto that top spot. Newhoff will be just thanking the Lord and thanking the Hasse's prayer that he got that caution period so he could pit it and get on a level playing field and up to the front end of the order again. And Steve Clays, 11 places gained currently. That's even if he stays in 5th place behind all of these guys. Cortel now trying to make the move to make it too wide with Newhoff. But I tell you what, Steve Clays, what a drive so far from him. 11 places gained up to 5th place. And whatever happens here, he's certainly done himself proud.
Yeah, absolutely so. It's been brilliant and a brilliant display. A sweet race, if you will, from Steve. And I have to say, all of this top 5 bunch have done an absolutely brilliant job to see through the strategic kind of prospects of this race and to really master it and to be within tenths of one another, all on fresh tires, within the final 10 minutes of the race, in the deciding factor and the deciding part of things here. The deciding factor will indeed be skill and guts, and maybe just a little bit of luck thrown in there as well. And this is just what we love to see. It's awfully close here with the Hernandez leading now. It's Van Eekhoven, Newhoff, Cortel, and then it's of course Steve Clays there in 5th place. Bart de Vos has ever somewhat dropped off the pace, though he's got a clean and nice advantage on the cars behind here. In behind, Anton Dupin is trying to get past on Greg Franks there. That's of course well in the top 10 as well. That's the battle for 9th place, but Franks having none of it, and he's holding it on there on the outside. Very nice stuff indeed. Sergio Hernandez is going to be trying to pull out all the stops just to see if he can break away from the cars behind. And you know what it's looking like here with Frederick Van Eekhoven falling ever so backwards there, and Pablo Cortel there getting up into 3rd. I think Sergio Hernandez's plan is working now, because it seems he was gaining ever so slightly on Frederick Van Eekhoven there.
Yeah, well, he's got 6 minutes to hold on to his tyres, essentially, which is going to be about 10 or 12 laps, if as long as we stay in this green flag running. And if Hernandez, like we've seen before, has held on to his tyres like we know he can, he'll be certainly a force to be reckoned with come the last couple of laps. And it might be down to who's going to be fighting for 2nd place, because Cortel, as I said before, he had his pole position. It may not go the way of the pole to light victory, but he is going to try and go for 2nd place to maybe hunt down Sergio Hernandez up the inside of Van Eekhoven, who does seem to be slightly wide coming out the corner. He's going to have to go wide now. He's high and handsome around the outside of turn 2, I think that is. And Cortel gets that 2nd place, but I tell you what, he's not going to have it all his own. It's not turn 2, in fact, that was the last turn. I guess we go into turn 1, but he's not going to have it all his own way, as the team down undercar is going to try, I'm sure, to mount an attack back onto that 2nd place car.
Yeah, very much so, and it seems to be the way to go as well here as we're back with Steve Clays, and a look at how things are just behind the 2 cars up ahead, as they're still going forward here with Cortel still locked on the outside there. Van Eekhoven isn't giving him any space, and as I say that, Van Eekhoven gives him a bit of space, and Pablo Cortel's up into 2nd place. And it's a very nice, 2-lap battle we saw there side by side, as they kept on just giving each other just about the right amount of space for them to all stay in it. But as a consequence, yet again, and this is a critical time now, less than 5 minutes to go, and Sergio Hernandez with a 1 second gap down to the Professor Cortel it is. And it'll be a big ask for Pablo to see if he can close the gap on his compatriot up ahead. Here is Frederick Van Eekhoven now with his teammate on the rear end. It's Kenzie Newhoff, who's very much feeling the pressure there from Steve Clays. And look at the pace it seems to be from the M&M's car here. Very nice to see. Oh, was it the scrape of the wall? Almost looked like it to me. But he's close, but he doesn't seem to be able to get the overspeed on Newhoff in the 62 machine.
Close but no cigar just yet, but we've gone caution. And Hasse, I know you'll be on that replay list to see if we can find out what happens. But this race may well be decided now under caution, unless we have maybe 2-3 laps right at the end. We want to see Clays here. We know it's not him. Paul Gosling. What's happened to him in the Quantum Sim Sport car? We had an inside car on the back end of our screen there, and we're just trying to find out for the best angle for you guys is Kurt Van Honecker. On the inside, you can see just a little left of his wheel there, car spinning off. Not sure what happened. I'm sure we'll be able to find that out, but we are under caution period. Now, we know the caution period adds quite a few. Well, it adds a minute onto each lap, and I think we have 4 laps under the pace car. So I think, well, a minute and a half for 4 laps. Whose maths is good enough to figure that one out? I'm always bad when I'm put on the spot. But we may just about get go racing. But it's going to be touch and go. This might be it.
I think it's going to be touch and go indeed. But this could just be that we get a first one in this series, and that would be checkered flag under yellows, which is not something we want to see, really. And that's, of course, why they had the problem. Jack Whirl gets here in check and bestows his powerful, but nonetheless bestows his curse upon a seventh driver, I think, in the end, that had that incident. We're just going to see if we can figure out just who that was. Steven DeWolf? It was! Oh, he gets pushed off there by the Flemish Sim Sports car just the slightest notch, and gets yeah, we'd like to see green, white, checker, please, 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 from Jack Whirl there. That is a scenario of dreams here. Imagine we get that. That's going to be one hot lap of action to take them through. But it's going to be decisive, which...
Well, we've got 90 seconds here left, so if the pace car is going to come round... go over the start finish. We're having a few drivers pit in. I think that's a brave one for the strategists. Maybe they haven't seen the time, or maybe they're just going to the laps, or maybe they've got damage, to be fair. But yeah, a few drivers pitting in now. Clearly, with only 90 seconds left, I think that's a bit of a brave decision. But I think, to be fair, take this time now, Hasse, to remind people that we are here next week, same time, same place. Give the page or channel a like or subscribe wherever you're watching this, obviously. And well, as I said, we're here next week, and then we've actually got a week break for iRacing's week 13 before we actually have the finale over at Daytona. So I can't remember the exact date. I think it's the 7th of December. We are actually off the air for that week. Well, for the NASCAR we are at least. So we'll be back for the 14th of December for the finale here at Daytona. You don't want to miss it because it's lining up to be an absolutely thrilling end of the championship.
Very much so, and at the most legendary of oval circuits. It seems to me, however, Jacko, I'm afraid that with 20 seconds left, I'm not even sure they're going to make it across the line for another lap. And as such, we might just be looking at our checkered flag coming out here. I'm going to see the white flag first. Well, that's going to be an interesting one. It might just be the checkered. We're going to have to see, because time runs out there. And still behind the pace car. We'll see whether lights goes off or what. Is there going to be a flag out this time around? And if not, I think it's going to be next time around anyways. So let us see. Where's the flag man? That's a yellow flag being held.
Yeah, so it looks like we're staying out at the moment, and I'm not sure. Normally, you run over the time limit and then you add a lap. So the fact that we haven't even seen the white flag, though, potentially means that, well, the pace car lights are out. So the likelihood is we'll probably get maybe the pace car come in. We'd love to have a green-white checker scenario. But as I said, normally the time runs out, then you get an extra lap. So we may see the pace car come in and... the cars gun it and across the checkered flag. We'll see what iRacing wants to throw into the mix for us now. But we have had 90 minutes of racing. I've just got something in my phone. Sorry.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting here brimming because if we get green, white, checker, come on, forget it. Oh, it's gonna be the most intense 30 seconds that we're gonna see. I haven't seen a white flag yet. It might just be that we get a bit of a dream scenario here between some of the front runners. Look at the team down under cars. They want to have every bit of a chance and every bit of advantage that they can possibly find. And it looks like we're going to be going green again, and Hernandez floors it. It's boogity, boogity, boogity for 30 seconds and one last lap. So this is now
That's
or
the checkered
never.
flag.
That was the checkered flag. Oh, and I get it wrong yet again. that was a sprint to the line if ever I've seen one. But pardon me for that one, as Sergio Hernandez takes another win at Charlotte ahead of Professor Cortell. It's Kenzie Newhoff putting Team Down Under on the podium yet again ahead of teammate Frederick van Eekhoven. Steve Klaes gets 5th place in the end. 6th is Bart de Vos. Matthew Sufi is 7th. Adam Wright in 8th. Anthony Pan 9th. And Greg Franks rounds off the top 10. And just as I was getting hyped up there and getting y'all hyped up as well, I do apologize. I am sorry. But it's not going to change the fact that it has been a great race nonetheless. And we're just going to see if we're going to get a bit of a victory burnout from Mr. Hernandez here. Oh, he gets hammered before he gets the chance. What a shame that is. I think so. I better go. I better go now. Let's see.
He may be good at winning NASCAR races, but he seems he needs a couple of lessons in the donut department, because I think that's his engine on fire. But we've had plenty of people in the chat. Jack Wells absolutely gutted. He's only seen about 5 minutes of this broadcast, and it's all been under the caution period. So yeah, absolutely gutted. But yeah, it's a good race by Hernandez, and here is the rundown of the order. Sergio Hernandez takes home the victory. After what was a commandingly well-strategized victory, it has to be said as well. Looking after the tyres was key. Pablo Cortell in 2nd place after qualifying on pole, only good enough for the 2nd step of the podium. Kenzie Newhoff in 3rd, Frederick van Eekhoven in 4th, Clays in 5th, De Vos in 6th, Sufi 7th, Wright in 8th, Japan in 9th, Vransk in 10th, and all the way down to 18th, you can see Van Honecker, De Grave, Musselwhite, Van Oitven, Gosling, Tusting, Walker, and Leonard. 19th down to 28th sees Vandenberg, Harris, Opda, Morton, De Wolf, Perry, Fredericks, Root, Behate, and Hobson. A whole host of those drivers. Oh, and we're not finished there. Apologies. Craig Jones and Bauman's finish off the 30. A whole host of those drivers are more than one lap down. I think it's safe to say that Fredericks, Roots, Behate, Hobson, Jones, and Bauman's all DNF'd pretty much. So, yeah, good for them. But it was a fairly stunning race, to be honest. Plenty of green flag running, plenty of dramatic overtakes, and that last 12 minutes was set up to be such a key 12. Well, it was key in the end, but it's such a dramatic end to the race. At least we got about 5-7 minutes out of it, Hasse.
Yeah, it was amazing. I just want to see if we can have another look at that small sprint there to the very line. There in goes the pace car. And
it's a shame we can't have your commentary as well over the last little bit as well. It was fantastic, but yeah, as soon as everybody saw the thing, what I have a question, obviously, if you just try and nick ahead of the person who's alongside you, would you then cross the line and nick that position before the green flag goes? But I'm not sure if we ever saw that. It would be interesting to see in the Discord if anybody got had off a little bit. But yeah, absolutely gutted that we didn't get that last 30-second grab for the lead. That would have been absolutely ecstatic.
That would have been a blast indeed. So, of course, interview room is open for any drivers wishing to partake in a bit of a talk with the lovely Jacko and I. And as always, we'll be splitting duties there. So it's a bit of a pick of the lottery. Who you get to talk to? Will it be me? Will it be Jacko? The one's more of a nutcase than the other one. So have your pick. And
well, I mean, might as well take the advantage now as we're waiting for a few interviews to shine you over to our lovely sponsors, Dynamixx. In the link you can click down below and have a shop around for maybe some Christmas ideas for you coming up this season with some sim rig goodness that you can add to the basket or maybe put on your Christmas list. Have a click in the link below, wherever you're watching this. I think is pretty much posted all around our socials and on live streams. So it'd be great. And thank you to Dynamixx for sponsoring the event. I hope you guys really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I certainly did, Jacko. Another great race from a great series, and I'm having a hard time believing what Bram and Ian, was of course organizing this thing, is saying about this being a rookie league, because I think we've seen such good racing, such good racecraft as well, and some hugely entertaining stuff on display here today. It's been absolutely great to see yet again. Another Monday has been saved by the SRW Dynamixx NASCAR Winter Series, as Sergio Hernandez did indeed get a bit of a burnout going. So that's at least nice to see. And I'm just gonna head over to see if we've got anyone in the interview room, and it seems we don't.
No, we're lonely at the moment, Hasse.
We're very lonely, and we're still waiting. But we're not going to be waiting forever. I'd say we're not going to give it more than just a few minutes more. I'd say still, if any of the drivers want to have a bit of a chat. And just as we say that, Steve Kleiss comes to the rescue, and Jacko is right there to have a word with him.
Steve Kleiss in the broadcast room. Hello and congratulations on that race. Absolutely stellar drive. I was saying in the race, that is probably one of my favourite drives that I've seen today. You must be pleased with 11 places gained.
Hello, good evening, guys. Yes, I'm quite pleased. I finished where I wanted to be, around the top 5. You know, that's always the goal. To be a winner, that's a little bit too high. You know, Sergio is very, very fast. The guys in front of me are, a little bit faster, better, I don't know, but I really messed up my qualification. I'm really pleased with 5th.
Yeah, well, I mean, to gain through 11 places from the start of the race, even if you mess up your qualifying, I mean, we were saying it in qualifying, to be fair, even if you don't qualify brilliantly, you always have a chance of moving up the order, don't you, in oval racing and NASCAR racing? And you took advantage of every opportunity, didn't you? And towards the end there, after that final caution period, you were so close, weren't you? You must have really enjoyed racing with those guys.
Yeah, I wanted to do it, the easy way, just follow. I practiced a little bit in the days before this race, so I knew what that car was doing. And I knew that some people would burn their tires or be slower in the long run. In half of the race, I got twice crashed. I knew it was happening. I saw it. Okay, I'm looking for the fast repairs. And then we had another restart, and I was like, okay, this is going to be a long green run. I really have to take it easy. I was behind Kim. I was faster, but I just followed. I was like, I have to save fuel, follow. We are catching people. We don't have to hurry. And then I was praying, when I was leading, I was praying like, okay, maybe there will be a yellow, because I have my years of NASCAR experience. I own the league from 2000 to 2008, so I know how a NASCAR works, and you have people on new tires, old tires, people pitting, and it's a very dangerous time. So I was really was a bit of praying, and thinking like, should I pit now? No, I'm gonna wait. I still have 6 laps, and then suddenly yellow. I was like, yes.
Well, I think it certainly showed that your years of experience came to the front there, because, as I said, it's not a drive like that we see every week, and for me, you are my driver of the day. It has to be said. Is there anybody you'd like to give a quick shout out to before we let you go and enjoy the rest of your evening? Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Well, I have a shout out to nobody.
Oh, nice. I'm sure they appreciate that.
No, I just want to thank myself.
Well, I can't blame you, because you got yourself into a good position there, Steve. We'll let you go. Thank you very much, Steve Kleiss. 5th position here at the 4th round, and you've set Hasse off now.
Brilliant stuff.
No problem, man. It's just fun. Okay, see you next week, boys.
Fantastic stuff there, Steve. You set me off by reminding me very much of a certain Nelson Piquet being interviewed, dedicating his Formula 1 championship title to himself. Because Because
Well, I'm not no from PK, but okay, I take it. Yes.
well, you have the skills of Nelson PK, but let's be happy you don't have the personality of Nelson PK. Anyway, Steve, always a pleasure having you in, and hope to see you for another interview after one of the next rounds. We're gonna hop on to our next interviewee in the waiting room. That's a very certain fourth place finisher of tonight. I'm gonna speak to him, and it's of course Frederik van Eekhoven. Frederik, welcome to the booth. After an interesting race, I think we can safely say a very, very close one indeed. From the front to the back and back again to the front, finishing right off the podium. What are your thoughts right now?
I'm quite happy. We got third and fourth again with the team, and then seventh. And all in all, it was just a very fun race. I had my very first green flag pit stop in this series. So yeah, it was really enjoyable.
And indeed, we did see the longest green flags periods, the longest 2 green flag periods of this season so far at this race, and it really came close to having a huge impact on the final results of the race. Were you fearing a caution period to come up when you were running in a position where you might really get hit by it hard when you just had your own pit stop?
Not really, I should say. When I just came out of the pit stop, I was indeed a lap down, so that would have been a bad time. But only 2 laps later, I was already on the lead lap. And then, yeah, if caution would have come out right then and there, then everybody else in front of me, except for Sergio, would have pitted. And then, yeah, would be. I mean, it was basically a fight between me and Sergio, and everybody else on the track didn't really matter. No offense. And then, yeah, the safety car came out, or the pace car, I should say, the caution. And then Steve Kleiss was in a really good position. He could take profit of it. And everybody else just kind of stayed on the same position as they were, I think.
Yeah, very much so. And we were thinking that we might just get a lap of green flag action. In the end, it wasn't to be. And I'm thinking, having finished fourth, it must be a little disappointing not to get that chance to go for a 30-second shootout for glory there in the end.
Yeah, it would have been fun to have just 1 or 2 laps more of racing, because it was really a fun race, close racing. For that final caution, me and Sergio were going at it as well. Just great racing all around. And then to finish it like that was a bit disappointing, I think, for the viewers as well. That's a shame.
Well, indeed. Anyways, Frederik, before we let you loose and off the hook again here from the booth, is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks or a shout out to while you got you in the commentary booth?
Yes, Team Down Under and 3D Rep. So thank you to them, and see you next week.
Well, indeed, Frederik, and we hope to see you as well here for another interview, and we hope to see you on the podium as well in a week's time. And that concludes our interviews for today. But nonetheless, that's also going to be the conclusion of our broadcast, as always. You know, it's that time of the evening where we have to leave you. You can hear my voice is saddened, and I'm very much not excited anymore. But anyway, it's been so great having you all along for another wonderful Monday evening of racing here on Simracersworld TV. Do leave us a like if we deserve it. And if you want to see more, well, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button, bell icon as well to stay notified. And come back tomorrow for some lovely TCR action with the brilliant Jazz, that's going to be his name now, Jazz Drankett, and the knowledgeable Peter Mackay as well. So don't miss that. And of course, same place, same time next week as well for more NASCAR. From myself, Hasse Rømer, and from Jack Oliphant as well. It's been our absolute pleasure to have you along for the ride here tonight. And until next time, take care, have fun, and I'm so long.